And I'll start recording. All right, welcome to the Desert Blockchain monthly session on Wednesday, January the 27th, 2021. It's 7 p.m. Arizona time. My name is Jay Carpenter, founder of Desert Blockchain. And tonight I'm delighted to introduce Bitwarden and Kyle Spearrin, the founder of Bitwarden and CTO, and Gary Orenstein, the Chief Marketing Officer of Bitwarden. And we have some invited folks on tonight. And we're going to be looking at Bitwarden. The title is Where Bitwarden Meets Blockchain. But really, I think this is an opportunity to explore some fundamental issues related to not only password managers and public-private key management, but also something called social recovery, which we'll start to touch upon towards the end of the session. But we're going to have a little presentation, but really this is an opportunity to have a rich exchange between some folks that I consider to be some of the leaders in password management, which is Bitwarden, and some other folks that I consider to be on the cutting edge of decentralization and blockchain. And hopefully we can generate some ideas, get a conversation going that could be valuable in a very broad sense on how do we start to manage all these different disparate accounts, different passwords. How do we start to create something in a decentralized manner that starts to mimic a customer service desk and do some of the same functionality? So that's the intention and the topics for tonight. I would like to say that we have invited Bitwarden because I personally consider Bitwarden to be one of the leaders in the password manager industry, and there are others out there. Bitwarden was invited without any sponsorship or financial consideration. Desert Blockchain does not take sponsors. We solely rely upon our Desert Blockchain Citizen Program. So with that, I will turn it over to Gary. And Gary, you want to introduce your presentation, and we'll start with that and go from there.
Great. Hopefully the presentation is sharing at this point.
It is.
Great. Well, thanks for having us, Jay, and thanks to everybody for joining us this evening. I hope we're going to have a lot of fun. Just by way of introductions, let me get this going forward one. So my name's Gary Orenstein. I joined Bitwarden a little over a year ago to lead sales and marketing and customer success. And my background before coming to Bitwarden spans distributed databases and data warehouses, flash memory, file systems, and networking, and a whole bunch of enterprise infrastructure. And I'll let Kyle introduce himself.
Hey guys, yeah, thank you, Gary. My name's Kyle Spearrin. I'm the founder, CTO of Bitwarden. My background is mostly in cloud infrastructure and application development, and for the past 5 years, Bitwarden. So,
great. One thing you'll note is neither Kyle nor I are claiming to be blockchain experts, but we do think that there's a lot of opportunity, as Jay indicated, to collaborate with people who are leading in the industry, and that was one of the goals of this presentation. So I'm just going to start with a little summation of the discussion that Jay and I had leading up to tonight. Was, how blockchain empowers the decentralized web, obviously most popular Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but new initiatives in legal, real estate, and healthcare. And with decentralization, we know there's no single authority, and therefore users become the critical responsible party for identity and access management. And there is no help desk. And so if you look into a future of growing interaction with blockchain-based applications, users are going to need to control their credentials in a safe and secure way. And we think password management sets a foundation for this, helping people interact with a decentralized web excuse me, securely manage encrypted information and to safely share that when needed. So really, we think there's a big onus on the user base to enhance the overall security of the decentralized web in order for the adoption to really scale. So today, we're going to take a very credential management and password management centric view of this, but would welcome input along the way. Feel free to chime in on the chat, and maybe Jay, I can ask you to watch that and just interrupt me if a question comes in on chat. Kyle and I are happy to take questions along the way.
Sure.
We'll talk about zero knowledge and how you can trust your password manager, a few tips about using a password manager individually and as a team, and then a little bit about use cases in decentralized applications. And I hope at the tail end, we'll really have more of a discussion. I'd say if there's one thing that we're looking for to get out of this session is really ideas from you about how credential management and blockchain-based applications can enhance each other. So why use a password manager? Well, the experts recommend that you should be using long, complex, random, and unique logins per site you visit or service you use. You should make sure that those items, those vault items, have zero knowledge encryption so that only you have access to them and the ability to see them. Using a password manager gives you cross-platform availability. Obviously, if you buy into a single ecosystem from a megacorp like Apple or Google, you might be okay with what they have to offer. But we believe in a cross-platform world, whether that's multiple operating systems, multiple browsers, multiple devices. And sort of the icing on the cake is once you get good at managing credentials individually, the right software can put you in an excellent position to securely share those credentials. And so that's a big part of what we'll talk about today when we get to the group section. So trusting your password manager is critical. I didn't use a password manager before I came to Bitwarden. I thought I had my own systems, and I will say even myself, I didn't think I really had studied the whole product category well, but it's important to take a look. There's a lot of talk these days about zero knowledge. And we have what we call zero knowledge encryption as part of our zero knowledge architecture. But I wanted to just detail the specifics of that. So, there are different tiers of these type of zero architectures in commercial software. And I mentioned zero knowledge encryption, which is where we place ourselves, where we have no knowledge of anything that's in your vault. Everything's encrypted with a master password where you hold that key. There are other situations where you might claim that it's zero knowledge entirely as a service. That doesn't happen if you're providing email and billing info. So we don't claim zero knowledge entirety across the Bitwarden service, but certainly for the vault items that get encrypted. Some people talk about zero trust and zero trust networks. Zero trust in the context of a commercial transaction is pretty rare, in our opinion. So by the very nature that you're choosing to have buy an account, if you're getting a paid plan or a premium plan, zero trust wouldn't apply in that case. But Bitwarden also provides ways to reduce the trust footprint over many of our competitors. Two of the most crucial ones are open source software and the ability to self-host. So many of the password managers out there don't have either of those options. And we do think those parts of the Bitwarden approach firmly set us apart. So in a nutshell, what does the Bitwarden architecture look like? And what does that mean in terms of zero knowledge encryption for all vault data? Well, as a Bitwarden user, you have an unlocked view. Once you've entered your key to decrypt your items, you can see those items through a variety of Bitwarden applications, mobile desktop apps, browser extensions, a command line interface, a web vault. But as soon as those items are persisted on your device, they become encrypted and remain encrypted wherever that data gets synchronized, whether that's on a self-hosted server that you've set up or the Bitwarden cloud service. And so this is the high-level view of the zero-knowledge encryption architecture. Then for those of you who are into the nitty-gritty of identity and credential management, we view this landscape as one that begins at the start with password management and things like advanced authentication, multi-factor authentication, two-factor, two-step login, but then the ability over time to interact and integrate with a directory service, or to integrate with single sign-on, or to integrate with provisioning, or to provide logging information to handle audit work or compliance work, potentially in a log management system like Splunk. So our vision is to sort of seed this as a more integrated experience focused around individual safety, security, and productivity at the start, but then expanding that to work for teams and organizations. And then for those of you who are interested in a little bit more detail in the encryption, we use standard encryption algorithms, same type of algorithms that are reviewed by the federal government. We don't do our own cryptographic code. And then we follow pretty standard procedures to make sure that those encryption algorithms are being used to their fullest extent. We've got some examples of the different libraries we use. And as I mentioned before, we're always encrypting and hashing your data locally before anything gets transmitted. So in the event that something did happen on a Bitwarden server, nobody can read that data besides yourself. And so it's not possible for anybody to understand what those credentials might be, without you decrypting it with your master password. So I'll pause there if there's any questions, but otherwise keep diving in. Again, just feel free to chime in. I thought I'd go through a few tips of how to use a password manager individually, and then a little bit later as a team. So this is a quick start. This is my personal tip list of how to get started. I might just ask if you are using a password manager, I'd love to hear about your experience. If you aren't using one, it's very easy to get started. Bitwarden has a free forever offering. We believe in that. It's really part of our company and what we stand for, that password management for individuals can and should be free. And we can build our business around selling the sharing capabilities that are needed by companies as they scale their teams for collaboration. But you can start simple with a personal vault and non-mission critical logins and deploy the clients you might use. You can see operating systems, mobile, and browsers. And you can practice using our password generator. I have a sample of the password generator on the right. You can do all kinds of configurations of both password generation and passphrase generation. Of course, you'll want to disable your browsers from saving passwords so that you can work on the Bitwarden cross-platform solution. You can explore different item types. In addition to logins, in Bitwarden, you can store identities, credit card information, and secure notes. And then you can explore some of the advanced features. There's a lot of talk today about two-factor authentication. Bitwarden has an authenticator built in, and it's possible to do password management and two-factor authentication in the same tool. You can set up custom fields for unique situations. You can set unique logins per URI or URL. And I'm going to talk in more detail at the end of the presentation on emergency access. Sometimes people call this digital legacy. It's important even before the world of blockchain and cryptocurrency came around. After cryptocurrency has arrived, this kind of stuff, I think this emergency access gets really important. In fact, it was just officially launched today. So you can see detail on the Bitwarden blog if you visit that later on. I'll pause for any questions if anybody wants to jump in, but otherwise I'm happy to keep going. Is anybody using a password manager and want to share their experience?
Gary, this is Jay. I think it's also important to mention that you do have integration with hardware tokens like YubiKey and so forth.
I'll ask, maybe Kyle will answer that question. I'll take a little break.
Okay.
Yeah. So Bitwarden does have integrations in with for two-factor authentication with YubiKeys and U2F keys. So we integrate with both of those protocols to enable two-factor authentication into your Bitwarden account.
Cool. So Gary, you asked for personal experience sharing, and I just started using Bitwarden, and I hadn't used a password manager prior to using Bitwarden, but I just started about 2-3 months ago because I heard about Bitwarden on some podcasts that I follow and listen to, and it was highly recommended. I did a little research, but I'm really pleased with it. I still have some questions, and I don't pretend to be any kind of skill level other than just a beginner at Bitwarden, but it has provided a level of comfort for me and also convenience in terms of managing my passwords and things like that. And I'm still incorporating it into my overall, account system and so forth. But it is interesting, and it's I guess was a little bit unnerving at the beginning to all of a sudden have these accounts where I really have no clue what the password is. I'm completely reliant upon Bitwarden to get me into certain accounts, and that's somewhat comforting on one hand, and it's also somewhat unnerving on another hand. So that's my experience.
That's a famous quote in our industry: is the best passwords are the ones that you don't know. So if you just remember that one critical master password and keep all your others randomly generated, you're in the safest place, because your exposure, your surface area exposure, if there's a breach at one service, is that service alone and nothing else.
Yeah, that's true. And just personally, I'm been using. I'm kind of living in the Google world, on the good and the bad. So that's kind of the password manager I've been using here for a couple of years, and they make it pretty easy to use as long as you stay within their ecosystem. Obviously, if you branch out, it becomes a problem. But up to now, I've been pretty happy with them. It works pretty well. The one thing I always worry about is that if you are able to break in, you then know exactly the type of services I am using. So if I was going to ask Jay right now, which bank am I using, he would not know that, or what all my other services are. But if you were able to break in and actually see all of the the URLs, you would know exactly which services I'm using. And that's one thing that kind of worries me a little bit. But as long as I keep the master password safe, I'm hopefully pretty good.
There's many Reddit threads. We have a large Reddit community subreddit, and there are many community posts in the Bitwarden forums about techniques people will use to protect their Bitwarden account. Have different tiers of passwords that sometimes they keep only part of the password. For the most critical bank accounts in their Bitwarden account, they'll have a little manual salt they'll do at the end with a few characters. Yeah. So there's all kinds of ways that we think you can design the right profile for you, and no single answer for any of that.
I think the technique you're mentioning there, they actually call it peppering a password.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, that actually is a very interesting way of doing it. It's actually probably works pretty well.
Yeah.
It keeps it a little safer.
Yep. So, as I mentioned, one of the wonderful things about the Bitwarden product is you get incredible value as an individual because you can be secure and safe and really develop a tremendous convenience in how you operate online. But the real superpower is the secure sharing across a team. So I thought I wanted to talk a little bit about that. As an individual, everybody starts with you create an account, you get a personal vault, and personal vaults are for one person and can be organized with folders. And then every Bitwarden user can launch one or multiple organizations, which are a virtual entity to allow secure sharing of credentials between members of that organization. And there we use a container called a collection. So in your personal vault, you'll have a folder, and in your organizational vault, you'll have a collection. And we have enterprise plans and teams plan, and there's a family plan. And there's also a free organization plan to try it out for 2 people. So, if you want, you could have a free Bitwarden account for yourself and a free Bitwarden account for your significant other and a free 2-person account, and you'd be in a good place as far as being able to share and have things between you. So,
before we go on that, Gary, it's my understanding that the personal vault is portable so that you can add it to a team, an enterprise account, but then you can take it with you if you depart from that enterprise. Is that correct?
So, yeah, kind of. So think about when you create a Bitwarden account, you create your own identity and your own credentials so that we know who you are, you know who you are, and you have your personal vault. Once you've got that, you can launch an organization, or you can be invited to an organization. And you could be invited to multiple organizations. You might join the Desert Blockchain Group organization. You might have a family organization. You might also start an organization for your company as well. So that could be 3 that you're a part of. And in each of those cases, you're seeing the organizational credentials of that group that you belong to, as well as your own personal vault credentials.
Great, thank you.
So to understand the approach of secure sharing and also managed sharing, many people think, oh, I just want to share this one login with somebody else. And that works great when it's, a very small group, but it doesn't scale well in any kind of group environment, whether that's, a team or a whole company. It gets a little hard to track and a little hard to manage. So we scale on the organizational side with something called collections. The collection is a container that holds multiple items, could be logins, could be secure notes, could be something else. And then those collections scale within an organization because you can also use groups, and groups can be assigned to collections. So that helps build the whole infrastructure out. And so you could imagine an operations group or a marketing group or an IT group inside a company or any kind of group, and that they'd have access to different types of collections. And this quickly becomes sort of a role-based access control setup that you can determine. We have different roles, ownership roles, administrator roles, manager roles, and custom roles to decide whether people have certain permissions to do certain things, read-only access, and so forth. So you can build a pretty sophisticated model for sharing different types of credentials in any kind of team by setting up this kind of infrastructure. This is just a detail of some of the different roles that we have and showing you what people can do or not do. And then we just launched this new custom role. The product UI dialog is on the right, and you can see just some of the options, whether the admin is able to look at the event logs or import or export data or access the reports and so forth. So a tremendous amount of flexibility to how you want to set up your group and how your group should operate. And we were talking about this before. This is a screenshot of our product UI showing my vault. My personal vault is a demo vault that I have with some miscellaneous items. And for this demo instance, I just have Gary's organization on the right-hand side, but you can also see a button for new organization. And so you could imagine over time, I might do a project team or a research group or a company or the Desert Blockchain Group and have multiple organizations that I'm a part of. And for some of those, I might be the owner or the manager. For some of them, I might be a user. So a lot of flexibility. So I wanted to get to kind of the discussion part, and again, welcome a lot of input here, which is use cases and decentralized applications. I've been doing research recently. We have lots of people who tweet about using Bitwarden for managing cryptocurrency, which is, of course, one of the most popular use cases of blockchain now. And people talk about these different wallet types: online wallets, software wallets, cold wallets. We hear people talk about these USB keys like Ledger. Maybe you've heard of them, mechanisms to do paper wallet. As I was exploring these definitions, it seems to me that Bitwarden really is a use case as a software wallet, where everything in your vault is end-to-end encrypted with zero knowledge of your vault contents, where you can protect a range of login types. And you can also add notes to each login as needed. There's a notes field or custom fields. And another thing, this was pointed out, we had a friend from NASA who's a Bitwarden user give a talk recently on how they use secure notes. This is an item type within Bitwarden to do documentation of sensitive procedures that they want to have co-located with business policies, but they want the secure credential and the secure procedure in the same place, all encrypted, all with kind of permissions-based management on who can see the procedure and who can see the credential. And that's how they've built out a lot of the IT team that's at NASA Goddard Space Center. And then again, in the context of once you have Bitwarden installed, you can use an organization to share credentials securely with others. So whether that's with a significant other in case something happens to you, or whether that's with a team as you're collaborating on a project to move quickly and be able to share new logins and credentials securely, lots of different options there. I'll stop here for a second, just in terms of these sort of wallet types and credential management, to ask the group that's assembled if this resonates with people. What are people using today for credential management? Are there ideas that are triggered that you think this type of solution would be useful?
Sorry. I can comment. I know I personally use KeePass mainly for managing my wallet credentials. Primarily, as I'm sure you know, it's basically the password to encrypt it and then the seed key itself. And then I know we're probably focusing primarily on like cryptocurrency based tech, but I would also comment that decentralization isn't just cryptocurrencies. There's also kind of decentralized tech like federalized, primarily kind of like social network services at this point. Maybe heard of like Mastodon was probably one of the bigger ones, or Pleroma, or more recently PixelFed. But I use KeePass for managing passwords for those as well. But
yeah, it's a good product. There are a lot of people who have been using KeePass for a long time. It's another open source password manager, and we do see KeePass was designed a little bit more for the individual user in their home office without so much of the cloud connectivity and device synchronization. So usually when people are looking for a more integrated experience with mobile applications and other applications, they consider other options. So that's great to hear. So, just a few general tips for the security minded. And Jay, you'd mentioned before about security keys. We do work with those from companies like Yubico, SoloKeys, and many more. Another thing that's important at Bitwarden is we believe in data liberation and a solid data liberation policy. So you can do a vault export from any of the clients. You could do an export on your phone if you had to, or from the web vault, or from the desktop app, or you name it, in both encrypted and unencrypted forms. And then the Bitwarden is an open source solution, and we've as well completed a ton of compliance and security initiatives around SOC 2, GDPR, HIPAA, and many more. One of the things, I think this is next, is Jay had asked me to touch on emergency access, which is a feature that we officially released today. I've been working on it for some time, and I thought I would just give a couple little bits about that, which is, did I skip the overview? Yep. So emergency access, sometimes people call this digital legacy. If you'd make the assumption that some of your most important credentials are in Bitwarden and one day something happens and you're not around, you can protect your credentials by designating an emergency access contact, or what we might call a grantee. You'd be the grantor and you'd identify a grantee. And the way that it works is, once confirmed, this grantee can request access to your vault. And if you're around and you're on email, you'll see that they requested it, and you could deny it or you could allow it. But it gives you that power and that confirmation at a time frame that you set. And if you're not around and don't see the multiple notifications, eventually, based on amount of timing, they'll be able to see your account. This will be good news if you had a lot of cryptocurrency stored in there that was really valuable, and wanted that to go to your loved ones. So, by the way, we get a lot of emails at Bitwarden. I've seen over the year where people say, I really want to let people have my password, but I don't trust them until I'm dead. And it's just fun to see. I mean, that's just the way life goes for a lot of folks. That's all right. This is a simplified emergency access sequence, just for the purpose of explaining the back and forth. So the grantor will invite a grantee who accepts the invite, and then the grantor will confirm that. And at that point, the grantee has the ability to request access. We actually use a similar procedure when we make person a member of an organization, a back and forth confirmation. This ensures that all of the encryption protocols are properly in place and implemented, and that we have enough checks to prevent any kind of rogue activity or any kind of malicious attack. There's also an ability.
Gary, one thing I wanted to add there is just what's actually happening here in this exchange is actually a secure key exchange between the two users. So it's a public-private key exchange here.
Yep. We also have a fingerprint phrase. Everyone gets a unique fingerprint phrase as part of their account that can be exchanged as another validation mechanism, potentially through a different channel while you're doing the confirmation process. And then something unforeseen happens, and the grantee can request emergency access. If the grantor sees the request but denies it, the grantee doesn't get access. They could still ask again, but they won't get a chance to see the vault. And if the grantor does not respond to multiple emails, ultimately the access is granted, and the grantee can take. We have two options. The grantee can view the vault if the grantor has set it that way, or if the grantor has set it for a vault takeover, they can essentially assume all of the contents in the vault. So that gives people a lot of flexibility. If people are interested, I have a long sequence of screenshots for that, but it's pretty self-explanatory. I will mention that the emergency access feature, if you want to be a grantor, that's part of our premium account, it's $10 a year. So you won't see that on the free account, the emergency access, but for $10 a year, you can be a grantor and assign one or more grantees.
Yeah, Gary, just to add a little bit more here. After the secure key exchange occurs, essentially you're exchanging your master key of your account through this invite process, and then Bitwarden essentially becomes an escrow agent for holding that key for you. So Bitwarden's holding the encrypted key that you exchange with the other user. And then the user is essentially requesting that key from Bitwarden at some point in time, which we would obey the policies that you've set up to exchange that key. So this is how we're essentially able to do this in a secure way. Is just we're essentially the users that are determining when that exchange key is released to the other user. but we don't have the key itself.
That, I think, brings me to the end of the prepared remarks. So would love to answer questions. I'm happy to do a, show the user interface if people are curious, if that's of interest, or we have Kyle here, who's, got the most knowledge about credential management in Bitwarden and happy to answer technical questions. So I'm going to pause the screen sharing and just open the floor.
Cool. Thanks, Gary. Very helpful. Excuse me. Yeah, why don't we just open it up for questions and comments and so forth. Just unmute. Everybody's pretty much muted. So, Tomas.
Yeah, so I do like that option. I was actually thinking about something like that yesterday. That grantee-grantor relationship.
Yeah.
So awesome, awesome functionality. The other one, and from login or password perspective, did you guys figure out how to rotate passwords? I mean, I'm using password manager, and it's like, after years of different accounts, I have hundreds of them, right? How do I rotate 100 passwords or maybe 20? Did you guys figure it out?
Yeah, so we don't have a mechanism for rotating your password for you. We have some steps and things that we encourage users to follow that kind of make the process a little less painful. Essentially, what's the best practice for rotating and using our tool to do that. I know some of our competitors in the past have attempted to try to solve this problem by essentially writing, software that will programmatically go change your password for you on that service. I think some of those things fell short and have since not really been as useful as they hopefully intended them to be, because now, one, you're relying on a custom written software implementation that is based on a third party's implementation of password changing, which, as you can imagine, changes all the time, and they're not, there's no standardized way of defining a change password procedure for a particular service. We haven't solved that problem yet. We understand it is a problem. And it's especially a problem when you're first getting started with using a password management tool, or you're dealing with old legacy things that existed before you started using the password management tool. That's why I kind of feel like that there's a little bit of a pain when you first get started with a password management tool to really get in the groove of that and start, really getting in the experience of securing your existing passwords that maybe weren't secure in the past. When it's much more easier as new things, net new things you're doing once you are already on the password management platform. But there's a little bit of upstart that's required to kind of get to that state if you have a long, list of passwords are out there. And the one good news is you don't have to do it all, original. There's still a lot of value with using the password management tool, even if the passwords you're using, from old services aren't necessarily the most secure ones yet. You're still, reducing a lot of your attack surface by using the password management tool itself. One really big use case that I find is really helpful with using a password management tool is to reduce phishing. A password management tool is often providing autofilling capabilities for you on the service you're logging into. And those autofilling capabilities are much better at sniffing out phishing scenarios than you as a person would be, because those phishing scenarios are typically targeted to you as a person, not a machine, not a software tool like a password manager, because a password manager can very reliably determine if you're on a website that it's meant to be on. As opposed to you not remembering to look at the URL on the website you're on, or having one letter off or something that would be very easy to miss. Password management tool would not match your credential with a URL that doesn't meet the one you've defined it for example. So even if you have this long list of old passwords that you need to go change, I think that's still okay, and there's still a lot of value you can have from using a password management tool before you get to that point in time of changing them all.
And so another question, your target audience are users or also some automated systems or applications, you know, like distributed applications, right, on blockchain. They need different credentials to talk to each other. Is this market where you want to be, or is it more, you are more on the customer, you know, like user UI type customer?
Yeah, so today, very much our users, our use cases, mostly users, being that we're an open source tool, and we take a very much of an approach of opening our platform, sorry, I won't say opening our platform, that's what we do by being open source, but extending our platform to allow the user to utilize our platform in lots of different unique ways. And our community has very much shown us ways they intend to try to use or come up with very unique ways of using our platform to do things like you're talking about. So that there's a really neat project, for example, called Warden that this guy created. If you look it up, and that stands for Environment Variable Bitwarden, essentially. And they use our CLI tools that we've created, which are very powerful programmatic tools for accessing your Bitwarden vault, to automate different scenarios on provisioning environment variables for servers and other environments based on secrets that are stored in a Bitwarden vault. So it would essentially sync down a Bitwarden vault. It would provision environment variables from the Bitwarden vault onto the server, for example, or the application. So we provide a lot of tools and integration points that allow a user to create unique implementations. However, if you look at kind of our first class pre-built experiences, they're mostly tailored towards user experiences. With that said, we understand that you know, machine-to-machine secrets and things like that are becoming more and more of a necessity and a pretty strong use case for you know, a platform like ours. So that is one that we're continuing to monitor and trying to figure out how we could fit into that scenario or provide better experiences for those users.
Cool, thank you. Makes sense.
So I would invite everyone on the session tonight, because we've got some people that I consider to be some of the top in the top echelon of cryptocurrency and cryptography and so forth. What would you like to see if you had a magic wand in terms of the management of your cryptocurrency, and if you're using, you know, decentralized constructs like blockchain and distributed ledger technology in other areas, what's missing? What are the biggest points that could be innovated upon in order to make the ecosystem more mainstream and more human friendly? Because I think that's an area that's, you know, really holding back the potential of decentralization now. Any thoughts, comments?
I think the emergency access thing is a game changer for me. That is something that I have not seen anybody pull off well. So I'm really impressed with that. I'm not certain how I would use it yet, but I think I have like 5 different ways I could. So I'll be looking into that a lot more.
Chad, one thing I wanted to add in there too, and as we were talking about it, I forgot to mention this, is, you know, emergency access, you know, there's a lot of, and we're excited to see what our community, you know, kind of figures out unique ways of using it as well. Because I think that it goes beyond the obvious dead man switch scenario. You know, you die and you can't access your passwords anymore and someone takes over. You know, I think there's a lot of other unique implementations and ways you could use it. For example, you forget your master password. This is one of the biggest issues that we have on our help desk. You know, people email in, hey, I forgot my master password. What do you do? And we don't have a good answer for that today because, you know, we're using end-to-end encryption and we can't reset your master password for you. However, you know, one you know, scenario I can see is you could use emergency access to help recover, you know, someone else's account where they forgot their master password. You know, you could designate that trustee as your grantee to assist you in that case, or some other, you know, crazy scenarios happen. So I think it goes beyond just you dying and someone taking over your account for you. there are other ways that you could designate someone to help you in a situation where you know, you can no longer access your account and the sensitive keys and things that are stored within it.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually how I view it, is usable for account recovery. Because that's what I worry about with my cryptos all the time. So I have like a little paranoid way of writing things down and hiding them in weird places. But you know, this would make me feel like a little bit less paranoid, like a regular person. You know, because I have a way that in case I forget or have a stroke or something and can't remember, you know, crucial.
Yeah. I mean, we intend you to create, you know, this really strong, secure password to protect your password manager. And we assume that you can write that to memory and you know, under normal circumstances you can, but, you know, a lot of people just forget, you know, and sometimes, you know, one of the situations that we find that, you know, causes people to forget their password is they're not using it all the time. So for example, they'll adopt biometrics or hardware keys and things that make it easier to get into your account, so you don't have to type this 50-character long passphrase, you know, to get into your account all the time. Well, if you're not, you know, doing that thing from memory all the time, you know, especially as we get older, it becomes very easy to forget some of those things. You know, and I think that, or you don't die, you know, you have something that alters your memory, you know, some medical episode that really, you know, some of these things are a little bit scary to think about, and I think it's good that we come up with ways to help solve those kind of problems. And I think emergency access is a really good way of trying to help.
Yeah, well, I think even in the decentralized space and crypto space, account recovery is like the #1 huge problem. Well, it's just not getting addressed because it's a very difficult problem, and this almost seems like something that could be portable to kind of like address something like that. So I'm just happy to see that it's there and it's open source and stuff like that. So, but yeah, so that's really cool.
Is anybody on the call using any of these? When I was doing some research, came across other types of software wallets specifically for Bitcoin, like BitPay or Electrum, or you know, Brave has a built-in cryptocurrency wallet. Is anyone using any of those type of products?
I can tell you that I just installed Brave a couple days ago. I am still experimenting with it, but it's not in a production capacity yet.
Yeah, I have the wallet on Brave. I just don't have anything in it, but I'd use it.
Right, and that's just protected with a set of username and password credentials?
The Brave one?
Yeah.
They give you a seed key too for recovery, but yeah, but I would I would never put anything real important on a browser in my personal opinion, but it's an option, I guess.
Yeah. The part that I've been doing a little bit of research on is, you know, when do you go from managing a username and password, which is what you do with Coinbase, to that you're actually managing seed keys and private keys and public keys, which you do, you know, a couple of steps down the chain there as you get closer to the actual, you know, blockchain interaction. So I'm interested in the products that people use, cascading down to more, you know, direct interaction, and how they maintain their credentials as they move across those different products.
Yeah. I think everybody's different right now. It depends on how paranoid you are.
It seems, yeah, like I said, it seems it's kind of a wild west. Doesn't seem to be any necessary standard practice at this point for these type of things.
Yeah.
Okay, let me switch gears for a second. Now that the top echelon of the group has spoken, let me bring it here to the very bottom. You mentioned automation of processes, etc., using Bitwarden. And we do have a number of use cases where accessing the vault would be beneficial. Do you have a documented API on managing the organization, accessing the vault, etc.?
Yeah, so like I mentioned to Thomas earlier, there was this user that created this thing called EMB Warden. How did they do that? They used some of our extendable APIs that we have available to the platform. The way we do that is we're a little bit, as you can imagine, our hands are tied a little bit by implementing an end-to-end encryption model on what we can offer. So we can't offer, for example, a RESTful API through the web to your vault, because our server doesn't know anything about your vault. So a lot of these APIs have to live on the lower level at the client side to interact with the vault. We do this today through our CLI application is how we handle it today. So we have a CLI tool that not only you can just invoke from a terminal experience, but you could also invoke from a programmatic experience as well to synchronize the vault to a client environment and to access the vault and get passwords and change passwords or whatever. Our CLI is a really powerful tool in the APIs that it expose. Although I like to tell people that although our client applications aren't built this way, for example, you could build a Bitwarden desktop application that is completely powered by the APIs that are unlike provided by the CLI tool that we offer. That's the level of functionality you get. You could create, that same kind of experience by implementing our client API, our CLI tool itself. When you get in the scope of an organization that Gary mentioned in his presentation, organization and user management and access control management of users within the organizations, these are not really encryption level operations, and we do provide HTTP RESTful APIs and things at some of that layer. When you're talking, but I consider that different than vault management. Vault management is around secret and credentials, whereas organization management is more around the procedures and associations of users and things like that. Which some of that has encryption level operations as well, but both of those things kind of juggle between some of the RESTful APIs we offer and the CLI APIs that we offer, kind of complete the whole picture.
Perfect. Yes, I saw here that Gary posted a number of links. Thanks so much. We're going to explore those.
Great.
So I have a question, and what I'll just blurt it out bluntly, but what is the relationship between Bitwarden and the 3-letter agencies, 3 and 4-letter agencies?
There's no relationship other than sometimes people find that Bitwarden is the best solution to keep secrets. So we do have a lot of success in both the business sector and the federal sector because we're open source, because we have the ability to self-host, and so people gravitate to that solution. But there's no official relationship or anything.
Well, I understand there's no relationship. The relationship's kind of a euphemism for could those 3-letter agencies subpoena Bitwarden or have some sort of forced access into Bitwarden?
We don't know what the data is. So, people can ask, but we can't do anything.
Yeah, one thing is we, as a company, we actually, have been subject to, requests for some of this data from law enforcement agencies and things because they're dealing with things. Our answer to them is we don't have the data. That's, our first answer. And we to date, we've yet to have to turn over any data because once we tell them that, they understand and they just kind of go away. We're a US-based company, and we're subject to the laws of the US, but we built our product around a way that really we don't have data provide people that would essentially break your vault. We also operate under this open source implementation, so it would be very easy for people who are technically competent to audit our code and understand that there's no backdoors and things like that's running on this platform, or rely on our third-party auditing agencies to verify that for you.
And I haven't explored it in any depth, but it is possible to run your own Bitwarden server, correct? And does that make it completely independent of the company Bitwarden, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we offer self-hosted capabilities of the Bitwarden server. So there are really kind of two areas when you talk about Bitwarden that exist. There's the Bitwarden server and there's the Bitwarden clients. It kind of completes the whole picture of the Bitwarden application. Bitwarden clients obviously live on your machine because you're downloading them from an app store, or you're installing them on your machine, or you're running them in your environment, and it's local to your environment. When you're dealing with the Bitwarden server, although we're operating with this end-to-end encryption model where none of that sensitive data actually hits the server, that's how we're able to offer a cloud-hosted service that provides all the guarantees and claims that we make. We also understand that there are individuals and companies that have policies or desires to eliminate that part of the process as well. That's when Gary talks about reducing your zero trust footprint. If you don't trust our service on the server side, at least, you could host that service yourself. And that kind of essentially eliminates you entirely from the Bitwarden company or the Bitwarden hosted service to some degree. Obviously, that doesn't entirely remove you from our relationship with us if you choose to use some of our paid offerings and things like that as well, where we license some of that unique functionality within organizations and enterprise organizations and things. So there's still a business relationship between the two entities. However, when it comes to your vault data, there's no relationship at all between the two entities anymore, that data, because we're not your server anymore. The server is essentially, the only thing the server is really doing when you talk about vault management is just synchronizing data between multiple clients. That's all the server's job is. The server doesn't know what any of the data is, obviously. It just knows who owns the data and who should have access to the data and what devices belong to a particular user that you should synchronize the data between. That's all that the server's job really is in the part of Bitwarden.
Cool. Well, we're basically at the end of our time, and I'd just like to open it up. Any last questions, comments, so forth?
I'll make one comment. I'm kind of fiddling around in the background trying to do some last minute research here, but it looks like Bitwarden currently doesn't have, like, at least for the desktop anyways, it looks like you have it for mobile, but like QR code secret scanning, I know you can like manually enter it. Couldn't quite get to all of the exchanges, but see if some of the exchanges don't offer like a manual input. So like if you're looking to maybe like try and, for lack of a better word, target like cryptocurrency decentralized type users, it may be worthwhile like to see if some of those exchanges don't, for whatever reason, they don't have a manual input and it's all basically photo scanner, and maybe that's, I know it's definitely something you probably have over KeePass. I can't speak to like other competing services, but like having it all in one, like being able to scan the desktop and pull up the QR code that way. So
Yeah, so I think what you're referring to is our QR code scanner that we have in our mobile app today. That really is only in our mobile app. What we have there is QR code scanning for two-factor authentication QR codes. I think you're probably talking about more than that. As many people know, lots of different things can be encoded inside of a QR code. And I think in the cryptocurrency world, that extends beyond two-factor authentication keys. So I think that's good feedback. That would be good.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Kyle and Gary. I got a ton out of this, and I'm looking forward to incorporating Bitwarden into more of my areas of computing and data management and cryptocurrency and so forth. And if you're interested in another session at some point, we would love to have that. And please let us know if you have any questions or if you would like further feedback on any of your products or offerings and so forth. We will have our next session on February the 24th. which is the fourth Wednesday of the month, again at 7 p.m. And at this point, we are continuing to keep our sessions online and virtual. And at some point, we do hope to have both in-person and virtual sessions available. So thank you so much. Feel free to reach out to Kyle or Gary if you have any questions. And this video will be posted tomorrow along with comments and resources in the comments section of the video. So thank you very much. Have a good evening, and look forward to seeing you next month.
Thanks,
Goodbye.
Jay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.